They were both near the size of their father, and that pleased him inordinately. Their mother had actually said something to the effect that a boy should be almost as big as his father and almost as smart. It's what all fathers want, possibly mothers too. And her boys had blinked at her and nodded. James had heard a rumour many years before that his father had wanted to marry Aunt Melisande, and would have, if it hadn't been for his Uncle Tony, who'd up and stolen her. James couldn't imagine such a thing. Not that his Uncle Tony had stolen her, but that his Aunt Melisande hadn't preferred his father. His mother had stepped into the breach, luckily for James and Jason, who, although they found their aunt very interesting, loved their mother to their toes. Fortunately, they had the Sherbrooke brains. Their father had told them many times, "Brains are more important than your damned beautiful faces. If either of you ever forget that, I'll pound you into the ground." "Ah, but their beautiful faces are extraordinarily manly," their mother had hastened to add, and patted them both. James was grinning at that memory when he heard a shout and turned to see Corey Tyburn Barrett, an annoyance who'd been in his life nearly as long as she'd been in hers, riding like a boy with more guts than brains up the slope, bringing her mare Darlene to an abrupt stop, not 2 feet from the cliff edge and only 1 foot from him. To his credit, James didn't even twitch. He looked up at her, so angry he wanted to hurl her to the ground, but he managed to say in a fairly calm voice, "That was stupid. It rained yesterday, and the ground isn't all that firm. You're not 10 years old anymore, Corey. You must stop acting like a boy with mud between his ears. Now back up, Darlene, slow and easy. If you're not worried about killing yourself, you might want to think about your mare." Corey stared down at him and said, "I admire how you can speak so calmly when smoke is coming out of your ears. You don't fool me for 1 minute, James Sherbrooke." She sneered down at him and clicked her mare right into him, nearly knocking him over. He sidestepped, patted Darlene's nose, and said, "You're right. Smoke is coming out of my ears. You remember that day you wanted to prove how skilled you were, and rode that half-wild stallion my father had just bought? That damned horse nearly killed me when I was trying to save you, which fool that I was, I did." "I didn't need you to save me, James. I was skilled even at 12. "I suppose you planned to have your legs wrapped around that horse's neck, hanging on, screaming. Ah, that was a measure of your skill, wasn't it? And don't forget the time you told my father that I had seduced a Don's wife at Oxford, knowing he'd be furious at me." "That's not true, James. He wasn't furious, at least not at first. He wanted proof because he said he couldn't imagine you being that stupid." "I wasn't stupid, damn you. It took me a good 2 months to convince Father that it was all your doing, and you whimpered and whined that it was just a wee bit of a little joke." She smiled. "I even found out the name of one of the Don's wives to make it more believable." He shuddered, remembering clearly the look on his father's face. "You want to know something, Corey? I think it's long past due that someone explained manners to you." Without warning, he grabbed her arm and pulled her down off Darlene's back and dragged her over to a rock. He sat down and pulled her between his legs. "This thrashing is long overdue." Before she could begin to imagine what he was going to do, James flipped her over on her belly across his legs and brought the flat of his hand down hard on her breeched bottom. She gasped and yowled and struggled, but he was strong, more than determined, and held her easily. "If you had on a riding skirt, smack, 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 this wouldn't hurt you, because you'd have a 6 petticoats to pad you. Smack, smack, smack." Corey fought him, twisting and yelling. "Stop this now, James! You can't do this, you idiot! I'm a girl, and I'm not even your bloody sister." "Thank God for that. Do you remember the time you slipped that medicine in my tea and my bowels were water for a day and a half?" "I didn't think it would last so long." "Stop, James. This isn't proper." "Oh, now, that's rich. It isn't proper, you say? I've been saddled with you all your blessed life. I remember seeing your skinny little backside when you were..."